facilities that make this program possible are provided by the City of Highland Park and have been made possible in part by Ravinia Festival, CJE, Senior Life, GAN Music and Sound.
And welcome to Cahnmann's Current Events Roundtable. Today we're going to explore a very provocative and extremely sensitive subject so that parents, grandparents, family members, teachers, friends, and people both young and old will understand the challenges and struggles of being a gay student in a heterosexual world. And I want to welcome today Gary Kulik, who is a junior college student, and I was very, very delighted that you agreed to come on the show because I've been wanting to do a show like this for a while, and I think this is the right time to do it, and you're very brave to come out to Cahnmann's Roundtable to do the show today. Gary, welcome to Cahnmann's Roundtable.
Thank you for having me on the show today.
You're welcome. And I wanted to explore with you the challenges of being gay in a heterosexual world. And I know that it wasn't easy for you because we had talked a little bit earlier before the show, and first of all, being accepted, and you had mentioned that some of your friends haven't been able to come out because they were afraid that their parents would stop, funding their college education or what have you. They were very afraid, but you did. And what was that like for you? And how old were you? And who did you come out to?
Well, first off, I came out when I was 15 years old.
15 years old.
15. I came out first to a friend, and I told him that I had been experiencing, these feelings that I had, and I believe my mom was the fourth person I came out to.
And how was that when you came out to your mom?
I think she was really afraid for me, to be honest. She was all right with it, don't get me wrong, but she, one of the things she said to me was, "It's a very hard life, Gary." And I just think she was very afraid for me because during the time that she grew up, nobody was out. Nobody, they didn't even talk about what being gay was. Times have changed, thankfully, fortunately. And so I think things are different now, and it was a lot easier for me. But initially, she was, I think, really afraid for me.
Why was she afraid? Was she afraid that people would bully you, and I think you mentioned something that when you started high school. What was and you handled it. You talked about it earlier to me, and I want you to share that with our viewers because I thought you handled it amazingly. So tell how you did that.
Well, I think high school in general is a place where it's very hard to express yourself. So
gay or single,
gay or straight,
or single.
It's just such a hard place to really be able to be yourself and to find, where you belong. That doesn't really, for me, it didn't really happen until college, where I was, able to fully be able to say I can be myself. I don't have to worry about people judging me, and so, yeah. Now, I was very out and open in high school. I came out my sophomore year, and overall the school was very accepting, very tolerable. I still had, every now and then, on rare occasion, but it still happened, where I did have people that were causing problems for me.
And what did you do when they did? I think you mentioned something that somebody was mocking you.
Yes, gym class.
Gym class?
Such a
Okay.
wonderful place. No, I'm kidding. Well, I think, people knew that I was out and open, and I had a lot of confidence with it. And these people, saw that, and they tried to...
These are students?
Yes.
Were they male students?
Yes.
Male students,
yes,
okay.
in gym class. And yeah, they pretended to be gay and started flirting with me. And I saw right through it. So my way of dealing with it was just going along with it. And because, what they were trying to do was, upset me. And I showed them that's not going to happen.
That's good.
So, but after a while, it started to get really it was blown out of proportion. And at that point, I kind of stood up to the person and said, look, you need to stop. This needs to stop. And at that point, I went to the dean, and he was wonderful about it. He took it very seriously, which I was very thankful for, because, I've heard of people having, that situation where they go and seek help from, whether it's the principal, the dean, and they don't take it seriously.
Right. And I think that's why I'm doing this show today, because I think that we're going to be seeing it. It will be aired a couple of times during the week, and I'll make sure I get it on YouTube for you so that people and kids that are in your position can watch it and learn to feel it's okay to be who they are and to accept who they are. And I think this is really important. That's why we are doing this show today, because of this. And people need to be sensitive to other people. Why do people do that? Why do people make fun of somebody that's different?
I personally believe it's because people fear change. They fear things that are different. And so what they do is they look at it and attack it. And it's just wrong. It's wrong.
So they just, because they're fearful of their own feelings.
Absolutely.
Sometimes maybe they have some feelings of their own about, they're not quite sure of their own sexuality, or, because it's different, or somebody in their household says it's wrong. Like you mentioned, you have a friend that is afraid because of religious reasons.
Yes.
So his parents are very religious, and they're...
Yes.
But you think that somebody that's religious would be more understanding.
That's not always the case, unfortunately. He had told me that he was not able to tell either of his parents, because not only, are they very religious, but he's heard some of the things that they've said in general about gay people, and there's no way that he's comfortable with telling them. They would probably cut his college funding and disown him.
That's really too bad.
It is.
It's
very unfortunate.
Is there places, like, I know that when you were in high school, there was a program called Straight and Gay Alliance Program.
Yes.
What was that about?
Well, there were two different programs. There was the Straight and Gay Alliance, we would call it SAGA, at my high school. And that was just a group that met every Wednesday, and we did things like after school. Then there was a support group, which would meet, I think, once a week also, and in a private room.
Sort of a secretive program?
Yes, almost. It was, I think the way it was designed was for when, maybe a few years ago, when people really had to be secretive about it, and they could not be as open. But it was a place where we would talk about things, relating to our sexuality, or just how we were doing. It was a good support to have, especially for people who may have not had it so easy at home or even in the school.
So was it run by students, both the programs, or was it run by a teacher, or who was it run by?
They had teachers that were running it, and some of them identified as LGBT also.
That was in your high school?
Yes.
Deerfield.
So
you went to Deerfield High School?
Yes.
Okay.
It was a very safe place to be, and it helped that those people also, were just, some people experienced the same things. It was nice to be able to talk to people that you could relate to, that were maybe also going through the same things, and then, also people who were older and had more experience that could, give you advice if you needed it.
So who have been your mentors, as far as your friends and family members?
I've had a lot of great friends that have been very supportive.
Both straight?
Straight and gay.
Good.
And my family's been overall very, very accepting. I'm very fortunate to have them as my family. I think I take that for granted a lot. And
because I think when you were younger, your dad, was he accepting or not quite at that point?
My father passed away 8 years ago.
Right.
So I was never really able to tell him. I'd like to think that he would be okay with it. I think he would have loved me no matter what.
It's interesting. You had mentioned, I'm sure he would have. You mentioned you had two grandmothers.
Yes.
One that has no problem with it, and one that she's been talking you out of it. So what is that for you?
Well,
from two sides of the family,
I definitely think it has to do with how they were, raised, where they grew up. Definitely a religious background. My mother's mom was raised Jewish, and in that religion, I think homosexuality is a lot more acceptable. And I mean, she even, I didn't even know this, but she had friends that were also gay. Back in the 70s, when homosexuality, it was still considered a mental illness. So I didn't realize how supportive she would be. So I told her, she was maybe like, I want to say the 10th person I told.
You have chronological order. We told first, second, third, fourth.
Well, that's because it's something. It was something so big. So I made sure I was very selective with who I told.
Right.
And then after a while, I got to a point where it's just I'm okay with telling anybody. And my grandmother on my father's side is the person I told last in the family, because I knew that it would be difficult and that she probably would not understand it very well.
Because?
Just because of the way she was raised and her religious background. She's Catholic, and in that religion, homosexuality is very frowned upon. So in some religions, well, I'm wondering, in the Old Testament, it is frowned upon. It says it's an abominable. So anybody that reads the Old Testament, they're going to get, either if they're Catholic or if they're Jewish or Protestant, they're going to come out with the same. That's what it says in the Old Testament. Right.
So and both religions go into the Old Testament.
Too.
So it isn't just being Catholic or Jewish. I think maybe your grandmother, you said, is from the. She's from Poland. She's from the old country. She's from Poland. She's European, and so maybe that was her. The way she was raised, different, more so than being, maybe from a religious, point of view, because it could be from any religion.
It's true. Even Judaism. I think the only reason, my grandmother, on my mom's side, they were more Reform Judaism, so less conservative. And I think that plays a part in why it's probably more accepted. And she said that, what was her advice to you? My other grandmother? Yes, your grandmother, the one that wasn't accepting. Well, the funny thing is, she actually never really said that she didn't accept me, but it was almost as if it was more in denial. And she kept telling me that I'm too young to know, and that I'll change, and I was just like, okay, you don't understand. So it's not something that people, like you're saying, it's not change. It's a biological. You were born, genetically. It isn't something like you hear people. Sometimes you hear on the certain, that people could change, and it's something that
it's a part of you. It's you.
Absolutely. I think there's definitely like a genetic component to it, and it's definitely biological. I mean, it really frustrates me when I hear people say it's a choice. Being gay is a choice, because it's not a choice. I'm going to tell everyone right that now. Being gay is not a choice, because there was a moment in my life where, you know, one of the big things is a big stepping stone in the whole process of coming out and everything is the first person you have to come out to is yourself, and you have to be honest with yourself. And so when I finally said to myself, you're gay, I had dated 4 women before coming out, and you know, I just didn't feel right to me.
It felt more like they were just like
my
friends.
Yeah,
like
go out, go see a movie.
Yeah.
You know, but there was no
chemistry.
Well, not even that. It was missing a spark almost.
Okay.
There's a spark. There's a certain spark you have to have, and I didn't feel that. And I started to notice, you know, what I was attracted to more, and I just kind of one day clicked, and I said, I'm gay. And then right away, I kind of went into the stage where it's like, okay, you can go on for the rest of your life saying, oh, you know, you're gay, but you can't tell anyone, and you can keep this a secret. You can, you know, not be honest with yourself and basically live a lie. And just the thought of that, I was just like, I don't think I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the sad part is, I know there are people like that.
There was this. I was reading about this Tyler Clemente. He was a gay teen whose roommate broadcasted him. It was unfortunate he was having sex, and his roommate broadcasted him, and in this incident, and he, you know, I think maybe he never even came out, because this incident led to his death, and because being a gay teen they can feel prolonged and tortured. This was kind of a really bullying type of thing, and he committed suicide. It was so sad. I read about this, and it just broke my heart hearing what this young man had to go through. And you know, what is your, you know, so that other, and this is the other reason, you know, that you're on the show today, is because, you know, I want you to give advice to young men and young women that, you know, it isn't just boys, it's girls too that have these feelings, and they feel tormented, and, you know, sometimes it leads to suicide. And I know that you had gone through a stage in your life where you were depressed. You had talked to me earlier about that. And how can this be avoided? What ways can you give some advice to people that, you know, to what can they do so things like this doesn't happen to them?
My advice to people is to be honest with yourself. And when you're honest with yourself, you'll be a lot happier. And I think it's very difficult because some people, you know, have to keep it, you know, they feel like they have to please other people. But when it comes to something like this, I think you need to really make yourself happy and be honest with yourself about who you are as a person. And back to what I said, coming out to yourself, it is definitely the first person you come out to. It's yourself. It's acknowledging who you are and accepting who you are, and then going on from there. Because if you live a lie and deny who you are, you're not going to be happy, no matter how much you try. You
know, when in our days, there were a lot of actors. I remember there was an actor called Rock Hudson. I don't know if you probably don't remember Rock Hudson. Probably don't know what radiators are, you know, and different things. But and I know he had to get married. He didn't have to, but in order to have his part as a leading romantic character, he married, and you know. Eventually everybody found out later on that he was gay, and everybody said, oh my God, Rock Hudson's gay. You know, it was, they didn't do that in those days. You know, actors and actresses got married, so they would be able to be actors. Otherwise, they wouldn't get the part.
Right.
And so they had to live a lie too. Like I know Jodie Foster.
In order to please others.
To please others. So I mean, years ago it wasn't. Everybody had to pretend. And I think you mentioned somebody. I think you mentioned it was John Travolta. John Travolta, who I don't know hasn't or hasn't.
I've heard a lot of rumors from. I don't even know if they're rumors, but a lot of people have said things.
Yeah.
But
so a lot of actors to this day, really haven't, because of not getting the part and stuff like that,
Absolutely.
Which is really unfortunate because, in my days, if you married out of the religion, you just get married out of your religion, it was bad. And then finally, if you married somebody that was a different color skin than you, it was bad. And now people and people never lived together until they got married. Now people are having children without getting married. They're having babies. So things are relaxing now, aren't they? A little bit more.
I would agree with you. I mean, we've seen a lot of progress just within the last 2 years. I mean, some places that I thought would never legalize gay marriage have legalized gay marriage. So, or same-sex marriage, I should say. That's the more correct term. But I agree with you on that. We've definitely seen a big shift and a lot of progress just within the just recently, very recently actually, which is something I'd like to kind of acknowledge. It's very recently that we're starting to see, finally some progress, and this has been going on for years. We've had gay pride parades, we've had, marriage equality marches, or protests at state capitals, and it's finally now that I feel like all that work is finally, all that fighting and marching and protesting is finally starting to make a difference, and which is really exciting. It's very exciting.
Well, now in gay pride parades, they seem to come out very flamboyant. Why is that, rather than just having a parade and marching like, in a heterosexual parade, whatever it is, it's marching bands and maybe people waving flags or carrying signs or what have you, but they're not dressed, so flamboyantly. What is that about?
I feel like, gay pride, I just feel like, in general, the Pride Parade, it's a place where people feel very comfortable, and they like to express themselves. I mean, I'll go to a gay pride parade, I'll be honest, and I wear some wacky things. But it's just, that's just kind of the mood there. Everyone's just really celebrating that they can be who they are. It's a place where you can be very comfortable, very expressive with yourself. And additionally, celebrating, just having pride.
Well, this year I went with my friends and our spouses, and I was thanked many times by people, the gay community. Thank you for coming to the parade and celebrating with us. So I was approached several times, and it was really nice that I was acknowledged. It was like, here I was the person standing out because I was different.
Right.
Yep. In fact, now I know what it feels like to be different, and everybody came up to me and thanked me, and I said, well, how did it show? How did you know that? And they just know that I was there just to be there to celebrate, and so I knew what it was to feel different. And everybody else is one way, and I was a different way.
Right.
So I had feelings about that. And Gary, you mentioned that, and I know that you went to Israel.
Yes.
Talk about what did you do in Israel? What was the situation in Israel?
I went on a birthright trip.
A birthright trip. It was a very special birthright trip.
It was an all-gay and lesbian birthright trip. They call it the original rainbow trip.
And I didn't even know there was such a thing.
Yeah, I didn't know until I did my research, and I looked at it and I said, this is something I would love to do, because on that trip it gave us a interesting perspective of seeing the country. we were able to march in the Gay Pride Parade in Tel Aviv, Israel this year, which was really exciting.
How is it accepted in Israel, being gay? What is that? Because you have the ultra-Orthodox,
yes.
who is very Old Testament.
Yes.
And their feelings are different. What was, did you see anything that was a little bit not as accepting?
It definitely, depended on where you were. Mm-hmm. If you were in Tel Aviv, Israel, it was totally fine. If you went to one of the holy cities, I've heard they throw rocks at women who aren't covering, certain areas mm-hmm. on their body. So, being gay, I can only imagine it's probably very unacceptable also. But
weren't there some Orthodox young people that were gay on the trip?
There were, I believe, one or two of them. Mm-hmm. They had also talked about how it was also difficult to come out to their family too, and be honest about who they were. So, but yeah, I thought it was just a wonderful experience to be able to go and experience this country, with all these people that I met. And I think it also showed, because they also were talking about a lot of the progress they've made in Israel, because you have to remember where Israel is located. It's located in the Middle East, which is, the surrounding areas. Even some of the countries there, homosexuality is a crime, mm-hmm. and in some cases.
What do they do in certain areas?
They, I know Iran in particular, Iran, Saudi Arabia, a lot of places, some of the places in the Middle East and in Africa have the death penalty.
Really?
Yes.
The death penalty if you're gay?
If you are caught in a homosexual act. Yes.
Well, during Europe, during the Holocaust, it wasn't just the Jewish people that were in the concentration camps. If I remember correctly, it was homosexuals that were in the concentration camp as well.
Yes, and Israel is probably the only country in the Middle East where homosexuals can actually have the freedom to do what they want to do, whereas in many of the Middle Eastern countries. You can't even.
Isn't that something?
It's awful.
It's death.
It's awful.
Some,
not all of them.
Yeah.
But it's pretty restricted.
Oh my goodness!